Yuck it up, fish. You won't be laughing for long.
Like that sappy pinched in my place.
Mm-hmm. An innocent man doing hard time is so cruel, don't you think? Sloppy work, Elliot. Surprised they let you carry a badge.
In New York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Munch My Benson. My name's Adam. I am coming from a just spectacularly rainy but pleasant Galveston, where we are in the midst of a tropical storm that has somehow sucked in cold, dry air with it, which is somewhat contradictory if you've ever been in the tropics, but oh my god, it's lovely. So I'm sort of loving life. How are you doing out there, Josh?
Well, I've been better. Work is really kicking my ass. So that's fun. Yesterday was a Saturday and I put in about 8 hours of work, maybe 9. So
that sucks, man. Part of the reason I'm so happy is that I did not go into work today because the weather was so windy. So fuck that.
They don't like you to pilot large vessels with high winds?
Yeah, the thing about it, so the issue isn't necessarily that I can't operate the vessel in the wind. I can do that. It would be fine. It would be safe. The problem is that people can't walk in the United States in 2020, and they can't actually get onto the damn boat when it's calm, much less when there is a stiff northern, wind and the boat is rocking up and down like crazy. Like some old broad's leg is going to get crushed between the boat and the dock, and I'm going to be the one that gets in trouble for it. So I cancel, and I feel great about it when I do that.
Yeah, there's nothing more fun than getting to cancel a cruise that you didn't want to do in the first place.
Oh, exactly.
Speaking from, 8 years of experience.
Yeah.
It's like a snow day. Like a snow day.
Yeah, so as our listeners probably know, we record these episodes well in advance of when we actually air them.
So Adam's getting beta cucked right now?
I am. This is it keeps going back and forth between whether it's going to be a hurricane or not, but it's tropical storm beta right now. So I'm getting hard cucked by beta. We are also in the midst of, what do you call it? Constitutional crisis, something like that.
Oh yeah, RBG died 2 days ago.
Yeah, but so in an attempt to avoid being exposed to any of that news, I've started a new program. It's kind of a hard one to find. Well, it is AA, but it's Arctic Air, the okay. Adam Beach star vehicle. Adam Beach, as SVU fans will obviously know, is Chester Lake from season 9, I believe, of SVU.
Yes.
I think it was 9. Anyways, Munch My Benson listeners will know that Josh and I are both huge beach heads, and so I decided to check out this show. It's a little hard to track down. I was only able to find it on, what's it called, Daily Motion, which... if you know, it sometimes has suspect prints of shows. So first time I watched it, it was reversed. I was later able to find a better copy of it. But Arctic Air, man, it is so good. So Adam Beach plays like a guy who left Yellowknife to make it rich in the big city of Vancouver. And as the season starts, he's heading back home for a wedding and to screw one of his old buddies out of some mineral rights. And his dad had been a co-owner of a small regional airline in the north. And as it turns out, Adam Beach gets back into the business. And it's kind of like Wings, but with a very intense, dramatic flying segment going on every time in every episode. There's a lot of people screaming at each other in Canadian. It's a lot of fun. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's really everything I wanted it to be.
I spent probably 6 hours last weekend on Daily Motion trying to find the perfect clip of Tony saying Angela on Who's the Boss, because Who's the Boss isn't streaming anywhere.
Really?
And it was fruitless, entirely fruitless. I skipped through at least 15 episodes of Who's the Boss and couldn't find a really good Angela.
You can't find this on YouTube? I would think somebody had made this.
I looked on YouTube.
Man.
I exhausted all of the Who's the Boss clips that I could get on YouTube. Exhausted all of that, and then had to go to Dailymotion where they had full episodes, but a random smattering of full episodes.
Well, and sometimes they're sped up. Sometimes they're. I mean, it's a wild world on Dailymotion.
Or it's a weird. Well, on YouTube there were a lot of weird clips of like fan clips with music going underneath.
Oh, fuck that shit!
Like, fuck you, assholes!
Nobody
all about. Yeah, who needs to see fucking Tony and Angela's romance play out with some fucking with like some Sarah McLachlan knockoff song?
Should we just get to it? I think we'll have a lot to talk about this week. We watched an episode. It was the premiere of season 11, and there's a lot going on in this one. It's called Unstable, and why don't I just give the recap, and then we can break it all down.
10 minutes when you're done reading it.
Something like that. All right, so here we go. We open in the middle of a very tense scene. A familiar-looking, extremely sweaty man is holding his pistol in another man's mouth. Oh shit! I think I'm watching the wrong show. I know that guy. Did I put it on Prison Break by accident? I can fix this, I tell myself. When suddenly, medical examiner Warner arrives to discuss the crime scene with the sweaty, intense guy from Prison Break. Fuck. This is SVU, and I don't like where it's headed at all. As they are speaking, a blonde woman wearing nothing but a bedsheet and tears screams and runs across the street. Prison Break runs to her and finds out she'd been raped. Prison Break, who, as it turns out, is a narcotics detective named Nate Kendall, drops the Vic off with SVU, and if it wasn't already clear, he's the kind of cop who plays fast and loose. The kind of cop who has no problem rolling up his sleeves and roughing up his collars. He's the kind of cop who hates caring for victims almost as much as he hates the very laws he's sworn to protect. The victim in this case, Rena West, is comically hysterical and refuses to discuss her case with career sexual assault investigators Benson and Stabler, insisting that she'll only tell her story to career police brutality specialist Kendall. So folks, we just booked ourselves a ride on the Nate Kendall train. Hang on. SVU tracks down a colorblind Kendall orchestrating a drug bust, quote-unquote, uptown, and listen to him spout a few racist comments before saying that the Vic said her rapist was, quote, an average black man, and then finally agrees eventually to help them crack the case. That attack had occurred as the victim was walking home with her groceries, so Olivia and Elliot interview the kindly old grocer, who in turn informs them that a lovable autistic man across the street films literally everything. Sure enough, the autistic man Spencer might be a creep, but he has a heart of gold and a perfect image of West's rapist, who, as it turns out, looks anything but like an average black man. Yes, that perpetrator, folks, was indeed the Oscar-winning actor Mahershala Ali standing there. Ali plays Mark Foster, a former day trader who has fallen on hard times and is now a lowly butcher because, sure, whatever. When Foster sees the police, he flees, and being extremely jacked, he is really fast. So fast that tough guy cop Kendall, who refuses to play by anyone's rules but his own, doesn't even bother chasing him. Instead, he runs him over with his car, which allows Liv and Elliot to catch up. In the midst of violating Foster's rights, Benson and Stabler learn that he'd violated the restraining order placed on him by his ex-wife. Though the investigation then hits a new snag before they can extract any new information, because we learn that it will not be Alexandra Cabot prosecuting this case. Instead, the prosecutor will be Executive ADA Sonia Paxton, who seems to take the side of the accused against what she calls the he said, she said unit. Paxton was sent by Jack McCoy to stop the alarming rate of overturned convictions at SVU and is as overconfident in her legal abilities as Casey Novak's autoerotic asphyxiation buddy Paige Turco was in Ridicule, which we covered in episode 9 of Munch by Benson. What do you propose, a tumescence exam? We then launch into a rather lengthy discussion about cross-racial identification bias before Liv and Elliot head out to interview Foster's ex. When they arrive at the scene, they find Kendall beating the shit out of her for supposedly having a filthy kid and preferring non-perishable food items. Things get even spicier when we learn that, contrary to previous findings, there were prior rape cases that match the perp's MO, which is slashing the victims with a boning knife and leaving green 80s van carpet fibers at the scene. 2 of the victims were former sex workers, and 1 was yet another middle-class white woman whose case had been investigated and closed by none other than Elliot Stabler himself. The convicted in that case, a man named Victor Tate, had spent a decade in prison for the crime of being black with a shaky alibi. So SVU redoubled their efforts to nail down their case against Foster because now they have yet another victim, that being the falsely convicted. One of the sex workers is found and is now a court stenographer who has absolutely zero interest in helping this investigation, much to the consternation of the race scientists at SVU, who believe her being black is the key to identifying her black assailant. The pop psychology racism conversation is put on hold, though, due to the rape homicide of a 16-year-old, which has a matching MO to the Foster case. So maybe he is innocent after all, because he's still in lockup, right? Well, that overconfident piece of shit EADA Paxton let him make bail. So the chase now is on to find Foster. His aging father in the Bronx owns the right make and model van, and a search of his house eventually leads Benson and Stabler to an extremely dangerous confrontation with Foster, where he splashes Benson and Stabler with gasoline and nearly blows all of them to smithereens before that dashing rebellious cop Kendall swoops in and saves the day. Foster admits to all his crimes. Stabler apologizes to Victor Tate and vows to free him from his wrongful imprisonment. And that dumbass, fly-by-night hooligan Kendall lets Foster take a piss in an unsecured precinct bathroom, swan dive out the window, fall 10 to 15 floors, and go splat right on the sidewalk in front of the precinct house, leaving little rhythmic arcs of red to pulsate gently in the afternoon sun. As if that wasn't a big enough miscarriage of justice, though, that piece of shit EADA Paxton tells Elliot she won't be able to free Tate after all, because all the evidence of his innocence is now hearsay due to Foster's untimely demise. Elliot is not pleased. The end. I left out a lot of detail. A lot of detail.
I'm assuming you have another 4 pages of notes on this episode.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
There is a lot going on here.
The Dick Wolf is a Netflix true crime documentary, Dick Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of in between Serial Dick Wolf and Making a Murderer Dick Wolf.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in there.
Should we take it from the top, or do you want to do guests?
I mean, the thing that really stands out about this episode is that we've got one of the very best performances I've ever seen from a guest in SVU. And he's only in like 3 scenes.
Yeah, but he's so fucking good.
He's so fucking good in it.
And this is like, this is pre-Mahershala Ali Oscar winner. Like, this is before he's kind of broken. Like, at this point, he's been on, the 4400 and some other stuff. Yeah. But he's not like an established huge name. No. But holy shit is he good in this. He's
so good. He's just so convincing in every scene that he's in.
Fucking hell. And, like, that's the first scene where they're interrogating him. He's so fucking, so good at, playing the sort of sociopath, super confident guy.
Yeah.
So where were you 2 days ago, Mr. Foster?
I was working in the morning. I went on job interviews in the afternoon.
Where?
Sorry, you start asking questions, I won't get hired.
Well, you were seen in the same market where the victim shops.
So what? I used to live there when I had a real job. My ex still has a place in the area.
The ex that had to file a restraining order against you? You got a short fuse.
My fuse is plenty long. You should see it.
What for? Couldn't keep your wife happy with it.
Yep.
The problem, though, with this episode, we have a lot more screen time from a much shittier performance. And that is from one Wentworth Miller, star of Prison Break, and he is in this so much.
And this is one of those instances where they're clearly like, Wentworth Miller's star is sort of on the decline, and Mahershala Ali's is about to like explode.
Yeah.
But Wentworth Miller is
it's rough, man. It is
yeah.
It is rough, and it's rough from the very first frame
Yes.
that we see. So I mean, he
Yes.
has a gun in a guy's mouth, and it is like, okay, what's
I
going
have
on?
so many notes about his acting. Let's go with the guests first, and then we can start going through the episode, because we've got some others also. In addition to a 2-time Oscar winner and Wentworth Miller, we also have Christine Lottie's first appearance as Sonia Paxton. So she's, for those who don't know who Christine Lottie is, she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Swing Shift. She won an Oscar for directing a short film, Lieberman in Love. She won an Emmy and a Golden Globe for her turn as Dr. Catherine Austin on Chicago Hope in the 90s.
Yeah.
She's also won a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a TV Movie for No Place Like Home. She's been nominated for 5 other Emmys and 6 other Golden Globes. So, I mean, she's got a lot of hardware and a whole lot more nominations. And then the actress playing Rena West, the victim that he finds wandering across the street in a sheet, she's played by Jennifer Farren, who she was Louise Ellison, the reporter from Hell on Wheels. Mm-hmm. She's also Abigail Alford on The Nick and Joyce Roby on Sneaky Pete, amongst other things. She's sort of, you know, often recurring, at least on like cable dramas.
Yeah. Mark Foster's father was played by Helmar Augustus Cooper, who I thought looked familiar, and I didn't exactly know where to place him. And so I looked through his IMDb page, and he was 2 different judges in the Law and Order universe for quite a long time. He was a judge from like 1995 to 2006 on the original series, and then he was also a judge in 3 seasons of later SVU, so from 2017 to 2018. So that's how I recognized him, but he also played a fairly big role in 1990s Frankenhooker, the kind of comedy horror film that was kind of like trying to restart the schlock horror sort of genre of the early 80s.
Oh, should we also mention that Wentworth Miller actually shows up again in SVU as a different character?
He does? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he
oh,
is.
Thank you.
He's ADA Isaiah Holmes in season 21.
Ugh.
Episode 6 of season 21, this last season.
Ugh.
Murdered at a bad address. Why? Why did this happen?
So do you want to just start with the cold open? Because like...
Yeah, there's so much to unpack in the cold open. So we open on him like with the barrel of his gun in some guy's mouth. But he's not a perp, apparently. When we're starting the episode, Jackie assumed that he's playing an actor in some crazy bad cop movie.
Yes. That's what it looks like.
Then she's like, "Oh no, he's just an unhinged cop." Yeah.
God, he's such a bad cop. Oh my God. He does say some fun things though. He says,
"Hey, we got 5s waiting, so quit playing with his douche." What's that smell?
Suspect vacated his bowels, Sarge. Couldn't be helped.
like everything he says is like just like a hard-boiled detective movie gone wrong line.
Yeah, like peak 80s action cop movie where the cop has zero regard for due process and the rights of the people and is just going to fucking do whatever it takes. He's basically Jack Bauer, only without national security interests at stake. It's just this meth head kill his kid.
All right.
So he spots the SVU case wandering across the street, distraught in a sheet. This is the Vic, Rena West, and she is really acting.
Listen to me. We're here to help you. Rena, you're safe now, okay? So just try to take a deep breath, okay?
Don't touch me! Never touch me! Where's Nate? Nate, where are you?
She's really really hysterical. She is basically a stereotype of a woman victim. And
yes,
she is the worst kind of victim because she can't even catch her breath to think about what happened to her. And she certainly can't think about what might happen to other victims.
She can't think about anything other than Nate Kendall.
Oh, my God.
Who she says his name 97 times in this episode. So between Wentworth Miller squinting through this episode like he's channeling James Dean playing Tito Ortiz and Jennifer Farron being asked to play the most irritating helpless victim ever, there's a lot to take really early in this episode. When she says, "Where's Nate?" I'm just like, I wish he wasn't in this episode.
Yeah, I really wish he wasn't there either. And also, she's like trashing her hospital room in that when we first meet her. Do you have any idea how much aluminum blinds in a hospital room cost to be replaced? It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then she slaps the shit out of Benson.
And then Benson in the when she's talking to Kragen is like, she basically told us to get lost. You're like, wait, what? Oh. She didn't basically tell you to get lost. That's like the understatement of the century. She slapped the fucking shit out of you.
She left a palm print on your eyeball. It's like she fucked you up. Oh God.
Oh, Jesus Christ! When she slaps her, I'm just like, whoa,
damn,
that's nuts.
Yeah. So after
but if she has the gumption to slap her like that, then why the fuck can't she get her other shit together?
Seriously.
Like, she's so inconsistently helpless that you're just like, oh, fuck off.
If she's a ridiculous crying lady from like a 50s movie, Benson should have just turned around and slapped the shit out of her and said, get your act together and tell us, tell us who did this to you.
Yeah, the classic like 40s slapping a hysterical woman scene.
After the credits, we come to SVU's precinct house, and just as a short aside, time by even like season 11 is not too far into the show, and it has not worn well on Finn. Can
you think about how insane that statement is just for a second? Like, season 11 isn't that far into this show. If you think about all the shows that have gone 11 seasons, there aren't many.
There aren't very many.
And there certainly aren't many in the last, 40 years. So, to be stating that because we're on season 21 now, and 22's, filming right now. That's nuts.
That is nuts. Again, folks, if you weren't already aware, it is the longest running scripted TV drama of all time. And obviously I'm saying that sort of, in SVU only terms, but still, man, Finn looks rough in this first wardrobe they put him in. They put him in this kind of like cardinal red polo shirt. And man, it accentuates his curves in all the wrong ways. He just looks, oh man, it's just like, oh, Finn. I remember when you were wearing, like a pinstripe suit with a feather in your cap, and, you were the man that people were calling to investigate sex crimes. It's just, there's no elan anymore. He just lost all his elan. And I felt a little sad. But Finn says, well, he's got skills, so this can't be his first party. Which seems a little cavalier way to describe a serial rapist. But, what do I know? So Kragen tells them basically, you guys need to get Kendall on the program, even though he's a bad cop who knows nothing about sex crimes. And so they go track him down. And normally I do when there's a lot of New York stuff, I just do it kind of in one segment at the end. But I'm going to do it in this one kind of as we go, because this one really struck me as soon as I saw it. And because they're standing on the rooftop of a building, that's where they find Kendall, and he's looking down, and he's kind of in the middle of there's this drug bust going on. And we'll get to that in just one second. But the card said 120 East 115th Street, which would be way uptown. And you would see Central Park immediately to your right if they were looking downtown, because in the middle of the frame, you see the Empire State Building, the single most recognizable building in the United States, probably. And definitely the single most recognizable skyscraper in the United States. And so you should see a big Central Park off to the right. It's very big. It's a big-ass park. Also, he seems to be pretty high on this building, and the buildings aren't necessarily quite as high up there. So I was a little like, okay, that doesn't seem right to me. So I paused it. And I noticed over Kendall's shoulder, there's another very distinctive building. It's like got a pyramid shape. And so I figured out which building that was. It is not remotely uptown. In fact, it is very far downtown. In fact, it's a building we go to in SVU almost every single episode. That building is the Manhattan Criminal Court building at 100 Center Street, which is right next to the Civic Center, which is where 1PP is, which is where the Supreme Court of New York State is, which is the famous one with the steps that they are obviously on in almost every single episode of the Law & Order series. They're on that building with the steps. It's right next to City Hall.
The weird thing is, on this shot here, I'm not entirely sure that they're not just at the soundstage at Navy Pier. I doubt that any of these three cast members were anywhere near there. They were at the Navy Pier at the soundstage.
Yeah. So you want to talk about how much this guy hates victims? Because
actually, I want to talk about. Did you see how he was wearing his surveillance kit earpiece?
It did seem strange to me. I didn't really think of it. He was wearing the thing in front of his ear, not behind it.
He was wearing it. So he's got the serve like coming straight from the collar clip, and then over his ear into his earlobe instead of wrap behind it. If like we wear these on set all the time.
Yeah.
So the way you would wear this is you would loop the earpiece behind your earlobe and then drop the bud in. The reason you do that is because if it comes loose, you can still hear what's going on and put it back in. But if it fucking falls out of your ear, like while you're running or something, if it falls out of your ear and you don't have it over the back of the earlobe, then it's going to fucking just fall off your shoulder and you're fucking radio silent.
Josh, our listeners have seen The Bodyguard, the Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston, song dramedy. They know how to wear one of those properly. So this guy hates victims a lot. He thinks they cling. He also thinks that.
Well, I mean, he's got support for that belief in this episode.
He sure does, man. But he also thinks that this lady was just, quote, afraid of the black guy and stuff like that. He says kind of a lot of kind of flippantly racist shit, I would say.
Well, it's weird. The one thing I will say for him is that he's actually not being racist.
Well,
he's accusing her of being like so fucking liberal that her white guilt is making her not view this person as a threat.
Yeah.
And then he does bring up a lot about, like, this is kind of the only thing that he does relatively well, is he's just like, cross-race identification is like very, very unreliable. And Finn jumps in and he's like, oh yeah, that's fucking true.
I hated that they had to make Finn kind of like that was like Finn's role in the episode was basically like, I'm going to drop some facts on you about cross-race identification that it's a little questionable. I did a bunch of reading about cross-race identification, and I'm glad I didn't have the deep research on this episode, dude. And it's really questionable shit. There's a million different studies. They're all the kind of studies that are like, they're like clickbait studies, right? They're the sort of thing that gets into newspapers, and they have sort of kind of questionable models. They don't necessarily show what they claim to show. And one thing that's really striking is that
it's an impossibly small sample of statistics that like you can't really derive anything from.
Yeah, often. I mean, I didn't go through every single one, and I'm not a statistician, so I couldn't exactly tell you. But like, it seems abundantly clear that if you take a white guy and you have him identify a random Asian person, when he's been living in, let's say, Iowa or something, he's going to have a hard time doing that. But if that same white guy had been living in Hong Kong, he'll have a much easier time identifying him. It's not the race of the guy, it's just his surroundings, So
well, but is it not the like latent racism of the eyes? Because one would think if you were willing to live in Hong Kong that you're also down with Asian culture.
Well, yeah, possibly.
And the remote lily white guy living in the Midwest or wherever in some small town, maybe they're living there because there's a racial bias with them.
I mean, it's true, but also, I mean, you can kind of understand that just implicitly, right? Like if I don't have a cat, right? and I don't see very many cats. Cats all kind of look the same. But if you're one of those cat people, you start noticing the differences. You know, you kind of just like our brains, you know, we segregate things that we don't understand very well. But once we start to understand them better, we have more nuance. And it's, right. It's just kind of the way humans work. And this stuff is it's bullshit hogwash stuff. And it's annoying. And it's definitely like the numbers they quote are definitely not true. I mean, we're talking about maybe
that's made up for the efficacy of presenting the message that they're presenting in this episode.
Yeah, so they say something like only 15% of cross-race identifications is correct. It's more like the difference between inter-race and cross-race identification is like maybe there's a 10 to 15% difference in correct identification. And there's a lot of
and that could just be like a clunky way that they wrote it that just doesn't really come across too.
But there's a lot of like stuff with kind of pop psychology. They also did a stuff with memory that they brought up, and I was like, cool it, Proust. Proust, I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. So I never saw Prison Break.
Yeah, me neither.
But is this what Prison Break was like? Because if it was, holy shit, I'd never want to see a second of that episode. Or a second of that show.
Yeah, no shit. I can't believe that this is the season premiere and they're just adding away like throwaway main cast for a day characters. Like there's a point where he's like saying stuff like, that bastard that did you is out hunting his next mark. You're going to let her get screwed because you're fragile? Park it.
Yeah, that park it line, I'm just like, fuck
off. I would kill somebody to get Hot Mike Sandoval playing this role. You know, like somebody doing it with like a little bit of joy, you know, just like, you know, show off your abs and smile once or twice. This guy's just like pure scowl the whole time. And it's so annoying.
So when Kragan is like, oh, we need Kendall on this, and Stabler's like, this is a mistake.
Yeah.
Kragan responds with, not if it helps us catch our rapist. And then Benson's like, and then what? Knowing how the episode ends, that and then what portends a lot more than it did the first time I watched this.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, yeah, that is really the thesis of this episode.
Yeah, is that, well, that guy's a really questionable cop. Like, he should not be on the police force from the beginning.
God, no.
I mean, holding a gun in somebody's mouth seems to be, you know, beyond the pale.
Might be violating someone's rights.
Well, he's not the only one that violated people's rights, though, in this episode, because Liv and
93
Abler
seconds.
do. Yeah.
Should we talk about the autism bit with Spencer?
Oh my God, no! This is kind of the crowning achievement of the show is when they go talk to Spencer the autistic man.
I was gonna say, with all the race shit, this might actually be the most problematic bit of the episode.
It's outlandish, just outlandish.
Holy
and you
shit.
know, okay, so we talked to this grocer, and the grocer's like, well, our security camera footage doesn't work, but look across the street. Go talk to Spencer. He sees everything. And it's like, okay, there's like, I mean, where do we even begin with how problematic this is? Do we talk about the comic autism, or do we talk about the fact that this guy has like a sophisticated surveillance operation going on for his entire neighborhood? And that's just okay. That's normal.
His brother's like, oh no, this is how he socializes. This is how he's social. It's like, oh, okay.
My God. Okay, so he's okay. For one, he's autistic, but he's also really friendly, and he really likes to share his talent with random strangers. And his talent is seeing everything that goes on in the neighborhood and remembering it for years, because he remembers Olivia, and she's wearing a cocktail dress at 5:28 in the morning.
I know you. You were in the store.
Yes, I was. We just came from there.
2 years ago.
It's possible, but I think I would remember.
No, trust me, my brother never forgets a face.
We have an awful lot of surveillance equipment in here.
Spencer's autistic. Detective. Loud noises and human contact unnerve him. This is his way of being social.
April 12th, 2007, 5:28 a.m.
Late night.
I did good, Tommy?
You did great, buddy.
It's so good.
That's like my favorite part of the episode is that bit right there. I do have to say that I looked up when sunrise was on April 12th of 2007, and it was 6:22 a.m.
So
that shot that they have of Benson
was
is
full
clearly,
light. Yeah, it's full light.
I mean, it's darker than the surveillance video of Mahershala Ali.
Yeah.
You know, they darkened out all the sunlight from it, but they just tinted it in post.
Yeah, the ep took a really hard left turn from like tough guy racism into magical autistics at this point.
Yeah, it's like they're just writing him like Rain Man.
I felt like this was not the first or the last time that SVU has tanked a young actor's career by making them go full simple jack. Because, I mean, for us in Munch My Benson, we saw this happen in Glasgowman's Wrath, where they made an actor with not that many credits to his name do this. And I feel like that's kind of got to be poison for your career, because people are going to look at your reel.
Help.
And they're gonna look at your reel and they're gonna be like, I don't know, man. I
actually watched part of his reel on IMDb.com.
Nice.
This wasn't on it.
Yeah, funny how that works. Spencer also appeared to have a Florida Gators baseball jersey signed by the entire team right behind him, which was a little kind of a strange note. I don't think of the Gators as having like a baseball team. It's not really what they're known for, but that's
they must though.
Of course they must.
Oh, no, they do. Yeah, Jackson Cower went to.
Okay, but I don't think of it as like
I'm getting really weird here. Jackson Cower and Brady Singer both went to University of Florida.
Okay, I mean, so it's like, obviously it's going to have a good program because it's in what is it, SEC, right? Yeah, so they're playing the big teams, but I don't think of them as a baseball program. But he also had like 10 different TVs. It was quite a scene. So,
man, if we're like, seriously, we're 48 minutes into taping and we haven't even gotten out of Act 2.
No, because this is the point where we find out who the perpetrator is. And I don't think that he's an average looking black man. I really don't. I think he's a very distinctive face, and he's like clearly works out. Now, what I found hilarious is that it's really hard for Rena West to pick him out of the lineup when the lineup is him. I'm comfortable enough in my sexuality to say an extremely attractive young man with 5 old overweight guys that are on a spectrum from 2020 Jawan Howard to prime Carl Winslow. This is the spectrum we're presented. And then we have Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? God damn it.
Like one of the guy they keep showing him, it looks exactly like present day Jawan Howard. I kept laughing at it. Anyways, he was evicted from his Midtown condo and lost his job as a day trader. Okay, here's my next New York segment. Because his recent W-2s, they say this, his recent W-2s show him working in the meatpacking district. Now, as...
And I know where you're going with this.
This show is shot in New York City by New Yorkers.
Yes.
The people that make this show live there. They are New Yorkers. The meatpacking district hasn't been known as a place
for packing meat
where slaughterhouses exist since like the 50s.
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting there like, fuck off.
In 2009, it is 100% known as the Gayborhood. I mean, that's what it is. And it has been for a long time at this point. Now, funny enough, there are a couple butchers still there. They're not full-on slaughterhouses anymore. That where they actually shot the scene is at a real butcher in the meatpacking district. The London Butcher. That's a real place. Now, the address is wrong. The address that they used was actually... Fuck, where did I write it down? God damn it, Adam. The address is actually a van store right across the street from a Diane von Furstenberg boutique. There it is. Yeah. It's
DVF.
Yeah, exactly. So, but London Meats is kind of near there. Anyways, that just pissed me off because it's like they don't go like, what was his job in the meatpacking district? Was he a bouncer at a gay bar? Which is, possible. Was he like an usher at an off-Broadway theater? Because there are a lot of those over there. Nope, he was trading cattle futures to cutting steaks. That's a long fall. Short jump to carving up woman. Let's pick up the butcher. A lot of puns.
So they basically, this is where the chase happens. Fucking Kendall
hates to run.
Kendall puts Foster over the fucking hood of his car because he hates to run.
Yep.
Then he comes into the precinct and starts spouting off about cross-race identification not being reliable.
And memory recall
there,
at
like,
this point.
I wish this episode would decide if he's a capable cop. Like, if he is who he is across the board in every other scene, why would he care about cross-race identification?
So much, exactly. Why does he give a fuck? He just wants to get a cheap collar. He doesn't even want to show up to court. He wants them to, suck on their own gun or something while they're waiting for trial.
There's just no consistency between this and his fucking scorched earth policing.
He gets back to his Proustian nonsense about memory recall being immediate, which is, there's actually, I did look into this as well. There are two kinds of memory processes. It's called the two-stage theory. So basically you have recall and you have recognition. And so recall is kind of that immediate sense of remembering something, while recognition is something that takes a little bit longer to be confident in.
Which is essentially what fucking Benson does for like the last 12 goddamn seasons of this show.
Yes.
Is just having them, just like walking them back through stuff and seeing if they can recall more things.
Exactly.
Like, that's her entire methodology
and it's
of her detective work.
But it's kind of like what an interrogation would be, right? So you get people to kind of tell you the first thing they remember and then walk them through all the details and see if those details actually make sense based on what they remembered, right? And that's kind of what it's supposed to be. And so like they should know. I mean, they're dealing with people's memories all the time. They're not just dealing with liars. They're dealing with people that might have a problem remembering the exact details of something that happened a few weeks ago. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, Elliot, for later on in the episode. And then we get back to the cross-race identification stuff where Elliot says, not all black people look alike. And I would say that, again, Carl Winslow and Mahershala Ali don't look very much alike. And but Finn says, thanks, but victim mistaken IDs happen all the time. And I'm sure that's absolutely true because it's a stressful event and you're put in a courtroom and you're told that this person was the perpetrator. And so you're kind of believe it after a while, at least how I see it.
Which is certainly what we get with Katie Harris.
Yeah. Now, Katie Harris being the first white victim of Mark Foster. And we are introduced to her when Finn finds kind of evidence that there had been another rape rather, that had
potentially
the same
exculpatory evidence of Victor Tate.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So this is when they bring up Victor Tate and he's like, hey, there was another case that had the same exact MO. Guess what? Elliot did it. Now they have the pictures up on the back wall. They have Victor Tate, who is the convicted, and next to him is, I was cackling when I saw the photo that they used of Katie Harris, the first victim. Again, she's another blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, and she's got this very kind of deep red gash on her cheek and this look in her eyes that is just priceless. It just had me howling in my seat because it's just combination of fear and confusion. It's the same face my 3-month-old makes when he has a really big fart. It's like that face. It's like he lets a huge one rip and he makes those eyes, and she was making those eyes with the deep gash in her cheek.
It feels like second unit really had a lot of work to do in this episode.
A lot of work. Yeah. They kind of brought it. I mean, there's some times where we've seen second unit really falling down on the job, but this one had some of my favorite moments. Now we had lots of puns. So we're interviewing Mahershala Ali. There are a lot of puns in this interrogation. Benson says,
my fuse is pretty long. You should see it.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't keep your wife happy with it. Someone had to pay, so you whipped out your big knife.
Oh God, man, Mahershala really got to chew on these lines here. Like that, my fuse is plenty long. You should see it.
Oh, like he's like licking his lips while he does that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's akin to. I don't want to make a comp based on race. That's not what I'm doing here.
Yeah,
but it's akin to.
All right, Joe Buck.
It's akin to Michael K. Williams and Underbelly, because it's both. You've got like great actors who are doing so much with not that much.
Yeah.
But holy shit, when you see them, you're like, oh fuck, this is like what this show could be like if they always brought it with the guest stars.
Yeah. To paraphrase the great Syl Johnson, is it because I'm black? No, in this case, it's not because they're black. It's because they're actually the two best actors that we've seen in an episode of SVU so far.
Yeah.
I think pretty confidently.
I feel very confident about saying that.
We've had some other people with hardware, but they, I mean, that nobody's owned the scenes that they've been in like these two. I think pretty confidently.
It's just they're so fucking charismatic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we get Christine Lottie showing up, and we know immediately that her role is to ruin the case. In fact, I would say that every time an executive ADA shows up in SVU, they're there to ruin the case, right?
They're there to fucking wrap their knuckles, you know?
Whether it's Angela from Who's the Boss or Christine Lottie, you know.
Now, this is, I think her entrance is actually really good here.
Yeah.
And it sort of presages the eventual role of Greylick, only Lottie has gravitas.
Yeah, and I would say that to me, when I was watching this, he says, I want to talk to my lawyer, and they go on to continue interviewing him. And I was going, wait a second, didn't he just ask to talk to his lawyer? Yep. And almost on cue, you hear 93 seconds, and that's when she makes her entrance. And you're right, she comes in like a hard ass. I was expecting her to be the defense attorney, but no.
So were they.
Yeah. But no, she's not the defense attorney. She's there to fuck him up because Jack McCoy thinks there have been too many overturned convictions in the he said, she said unit.
And so she's being brought in as the heavy hitter from Albany, who, per the show, is the first person after Pataki reinstated the death penalty. She's the first person to get a death penalty conviction.
Yeah.
On which I'm not even going to get into the death penalty, but I think this episode does a very good job of showing why the death penalty shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah. Because it kind of gives you an easy out, right? In some ways.
Oh no, but Victor Tate sitting in.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, that's for damn sure. We'll get there.
We're gonna get there.
So we kind of talk, there's some like law talk going on here. I kind of zoned out. And then we go to talk to the ex-wife. And I have a lot to talk about here. So her apartment is said to be at 232 West 41st Street, which...
I love that of the things that we really need to talk about, this is where you're starting.
Well, I'm just setting the scene here.
I know.
So this is... said by Mark Foster to be close by in the meatpacking district. It's not. It's actually like a block off Times Square, and it's directly next to the New York Times building. So it's not. It's definitely not a residential apartment. It's got a gym in the ground floor. It's an office building. Anyways, as Benson and Elliot are making their way towards the door, I thought we were in the middle of a Glasgowman's Wrath-esque violent rape fantasy being played out, because the audio that I hear as they're walking towards her door is, "Do me so hard, make me feel good," a woman says, followed by, "Come on, you whore," followed by glass breaking and slaps.
Do so hard, make me feel good.
Come on, you whore! And then they reach the door. And it's not a violent rape fantasy going on. It's fucking Wentworth Miller beating the shit out of a woman for the crime of supposedly having a unkempt house and smoking drugs in her.
Yeah, it was the crack pipe. that was the problem.
Actually, in his words, he said she was sucking on that pipe when I got here. So maybe there was a violent rape fantasy going on, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe. My note on this scene is I finally get to see Stabler rough up someone who absolutely deserves it.
That's true. That's true. Now, his evidence for the house being filthy is a missing picture frame behind the sofa, which had clearly been moved moments before they started filming. Another picture that is just askew, but otherwise looks totally fine. There were some potato chips on the table.
But next to the crack pipe.
Okay, the crack pipe was sitting in a pile of potato chips, which I would say contradicts another one of his statements. But so
it could have just been her lucky crack pipe, though.
It could have been a lucky crack pipe. Anyway, so there was cigarette butts, whatever. Are we supposed to think that smokers are bad at this point? Probably. But there was like nice art in there.
I'm sure it's been banned in New York already.
There was a really nice like framed silk kimono print kind of thing. It was like this like cool like kind of blue-green with like birds in it. It was beautiful
Well,
artwork.
I think that's meant to be the symbol of the fall from the middle class.
There's also like a bunch of cookbooks in there, like lots of books. The supposedly filthy kid that he points out, not filthy at all. She had freshly combed hair. And
there's plenty of other stuff in the apartment that is filthy, but she is not.
The kid is
child
not filthy.
Looks like she's been taken care of.
She's sitting in like a really nice looking little like play nook. She's got like an easel that she's been drawing on. She's got her own books over there. She didn't look dirty at all.
She clearly has potato chips that she can eat whenever she wants.
That's what I'm saying. He said there's no food in the fridge. There's food on the fucking table, man.
I mean, she'll have to pick around the crock pipe, but there are potato chips.
Okay, so there's no food in the fridge, but I bet there's some cans of beans in there. You know, it's New York. People don't like cook at home. They get takeout. Yeah. Anyways, let's just say that there was racism going on here in a pretty big way. And who gets to be the
who are the
victims?
rapists? Who are the
good victims?
Who are the victims that the system doesn't care about? And
yeah,
I do think that there's an element of like, it's dealing with race in a way that is like showing how policing black people is problematic. Like that's obviously going on in this episode.
Yeah,
but they're also
they're
populating the periphery with a lot of black people who are in
questionable, like they're put into questionable
either prostitutes, reformed prostitutes.
Dead prostitutes, crackheads, rapists, wrongly convicted rapists, or pimps. Those are all the black people that we see.
The dad.
Oh yeah, the dad who
just doesn't want them to kill his son.
Yeah. Also, all the white victims are literally blonde-haired, blue-eyed. In fact, when they go see Katie Harris, every single person in the room had blue eyes, which is because Maloney has blue eyes too. So it's like Maloney talking to Katie Harris, who has blue eyes, and her husband
who's the
who has
Aryan
blue eyes.
ideal.
Yeah, and it's like, guys, couldn't you have like maybe, I don't know, thrown in somebody with some like, maybe I've just been watching too much Arctic Air and I'm, got a lot of First Nations people that are main cast members, but come on, guys, maybe like mix it up a little bit. Have one of the
it's one of those things that there's such a fine line to walk. And the episode is ultimately trying to make a statement about how race is policed in the U.S. That's absolutely what's going on here.
Yes.
And so it is like trying to do something ultimately positive.
Yes.
Or like possibly transformative about race. Like it's incrementally, but it is trying to bring awareness to like something that's clearly a huge fucking problem.
Yes, absolutely. That's not a question. It's just, man, I just feel like
there needed to be a little more sensitivity on how these things were presented. And to be fair, the prostitute who got away, who's still alive, like she's living a better life now, and she's refusing to be a victim. And so it's not like.
But they're either like, I feel like
it's
that's
not
another
treating
stereotype.
Being black
though.
as a complete. It's not treating being black as a complete just dead end stereotype thing.
Yes, I felt like when they figured out who these characters were going to be, they were like, okay, well, here's we'll make
pimp black, rapist black, prostitutes black,
crackhead black. Kind of. I mean, it's just kind of rough. It could have been handled with a lot more sensitivity because they clearly...
His crackhead wife did not need to be black.
No, absolutely not. Like, that didn't need to happen. She didn't need to be a crackhead. Like, they didn't need to go down that road. I don't know. They could have done something else there.
I mean, like, Tate and... Victor Tate and Mark Foster, I think it's Mark.
Yeah.
They clearly need to be black for the whole point of this episode to mean anything.
Yeah, but nobody else really needed to be black.
No one else needed to be. Foster's dad.
Foster's dad. But the prostitutes didn't need they didn't need to be there.
Especially because they don't fit his MO. 3 of his victims are white women, and I know that he's thinking that a prostitute, like he thought that a prostitute would be an easy mark, that he could get away with everything and whatever. but
I'm sure you can find a blonde prostitute in New York. You know, I mean, it seems like they're like blonde white ladies.
Have his type make sense. Have his target make sense.
Yeah.
Like
if you're making him be like a kind of like ramping up serial rapist, like give him that profile.
Usually they have a type.
Yeah. Like at this point,
at least when we see them presented in media.
Yeah. Like Wong's been on the show for a long time. They're comfortable like profiling serial killers, you know, and it's just, you know, with Foster and Tate, it didn't strike me as being too jarring. Like, obviously there was some racism talk, but that's kind of was Wentworth Miller's kind of point in the episode, to be like the bad cop, that he's kind of standing in for some of the less
I would say the worst cop, not even bad cop.
Yeah, like he's standing in for the least savory aspects of police work, right? That aren't. Yeah. But I just thought it was really unnecessary when we get to this scene, and then when we get to the prostitutes, because it's just like, man, it's rough. Anyways, moving along.
Can we talk about the line, vans are the vehicle of choice for perverts?
Okay, as a vanned American, I took a lot of umbrage with this.
I mean, my note
scene.
is, Adam, any thoughts?
Yeah. I was deeply offended, and I think there are literally dozens of legit activities you can do in a van. Like,
I mean, van life is a thing now.
It's totally a thing. Like, people make a living basically being attractive and living in vans. That's like that's
an influencer lifestyle.
Oh my God, what assholes. Jesus Christ. The month that Megan and I lived in the van, I was like, you need to be wearing bikinis more often, and I need to have a cooler thing that I do. I need to be a surfer.
What kind of van are you trying to be, dude? Like, what kind of van life person? Okay, so you need to be in a bikini, Megan, so let's
put Megan in a bikini, and I had to be like
you're trying to be 80s van life guy.
No, I need
or Chevy Van the movie.
No, I'm telling you that these van life people, I'll tell you here's the formula.
Jackie follows like 90 of them on Instagram.
Chick's always in a bikini, and dude is like a surfer or a photographer.
Well, yeah, the van's next to the beach.
Yeah, and like, so I want to be like a base jumper or something. I thought about being
Daniel Norris.
Yeah, there you go. Be like a extreme jet skier or something like that. Yeah. Anyways, yes, she says vans are the vehicles of choice for perverts. Hundreds of thousands have the same carpet. Now, it was a nice van when we finally get to it. It's like a late 80s Chevy conversion van. Looked like it was in good shape. You know, it had a nice paint job. Better than
I was into it.
My 98 Dodge, that's for sure. We have not discussed the pimp. Kendall says, you want to find a whore, you ask a pimp. And so...
He's clearly not SVU.
Yeah.
No one on the unit would say that.
Well, I feel
certainly not in season 11.
Nah, probably not in season 11. Or you'd have like...
Stabler would have said hooker, but not whore.
Yeah, he might say hooker. And you might even at this point go like, hey, let's call Sister Peg, who has done outreach to sex workers for...
Wait, has she been murdered at this point?
She might have been murdered at this point. But they could, like, they've already had one Sister Peg. Why can't they bring in, one of her colleagues?
Sister Kate.
Something like that.
Do you remember Sister Kate?
No.
That nun orphanage comedy on NBC back in like 1990 with Jason Priestley and who else was in it? Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So we go to talk to the pimp, and we go to 772 Washington Street, which is a residential block in the West Village, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in New York City. It's not in 2009 where you'd expect to find a jaunty pimp straight out of Dolomite 2, the Human Tornado casting, which is what we find there.
Yes.
I honestly really love this dude. He's played by Glenn Turner. His name was Willie Boots, and he only has 4 minor credits, but he's kind of on fire in this scene. Even though it's highly problematic.
Yeah. It's one of those things like it's straight out of a blaxploitation movie.
Absolutely. Kendall says there's like a young girl talking to Willie Boots as they're walking up, and Kendall says,
"This guy will have you in lycra and plastic heels before you know it. Get lost."
Detective, what do you need?
You were a baller back in the day. Probably knew every skirt in the city.
If they was any good.
We need a name with the face.
What's the pay?
Not having me come back here.
Willie.
I really love him.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is problematic, but at least this is fun.
Well, he was having fun with
so many of the
role.
problematic things are not fun in this episode, but this pimp performance is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. So he knows all the whores in town, apparently, according to him. And one of them had died, I guess, and the other one was out of the game. And we go and meet her, and she's a court reporter, and she has absolutely zero interest in helping SVU. And that hurts Kendall's feelings because he thinks that the only way that they're going to break this case is to have a black victim identify a black perpetrator, because that's the only way you can make a positive identification, which I know what they're getting at, but I felt like it was clumsy and insulting.
I mean, they're getting at, white people are racist.
Yeah, but it's also insulting to people that, that have been victims of crimes that they can't, I think. I don't know. I thought it was pretty clumsy.
I think white people are racist, though. I mean, I have a note in here, white people are the fucking worst.
It's true. So,
like, when Katie Harris's ID puts Tate behind bars, I'm just like, oh, God damn it. And then she's like, no, this is who it was.
But it wasn't even Katie Harris's ID that put him behind bars. It was Elliot's shoddy police work that put him behind bars.
He wouldn't have been able to do it if she hadn't ID'd him, though.
That's true, but he pushed him on the alibi when the guy couldn't remember what he was doing like 3 weeks previous. And anybody who's listened to podcasts has heard Serial, and we know all about how hard it is to remember something that happened months ago when it wasn't wasn't a very interesting night. Or was it? Odd none. Or was it? Okay, so we get to the dad.
Yeah.
And
then the fire in the alley.
Somehow the dad is unaware that the van is it's not in the garage next door. It's in the alley on fire right next to his house. But regardless,
because the kid can't burn it down in the garage.
I guess. I mean, I guess it might.
No, you wouldn't. It would be a fucking dick move.
I guess it's a dick.
Burn down this guy's garage on top of everything else.
This guy has already murdered.
Because it's the neighbors. Nah. I think you would. I think you would burn the van out in the alley, not inside a structure. Like,
well, why not?
Doing it inside a structure is just like needlessly destructive and fucking over your dad's neighbor.
If we're gonna why not just drive it to another neighborhood, not right next to your dad's house and set it on fire? Doesn't that make some sense too? Like one does in, on televisions and films.
They only have so many locations in this episode.
I guess,
you can only have so many locations.
I guess you're right. So budgetary constraints prevented them from burning it in an empty lot somewhere.
Yeah, they're like, look, we have so many fucking setups already. Let's.
Yeah. I could tell they're going through the script, going nope, we're cutting out that shot. Nope.
Yep. No, that's another second unit thing.
Oh my God. So we get another great interview with Mahershala Ali.
Jesus, his recounting of his crimes is as dark as this show gets. He's so fucking good. I mean, it's horrifying, but he's so fucking good in this scene.
Where he says, "That's a boning knife, sweetheart. I just wanted to see how it handled human flesh." It's like,
yep.
Damn. Damn. Also, okay. They were kind of discussing how they were gonna how they were charging this guy with his defense attorney, who's only in it briefly. But did he not just attempt murder on 2 police officers? He splashed them with gasoline. Okay, yeah. I'm jumping ahead here because, so he splashes them with gasoline. And while he's splashing them with gasoline... I would say,
it's way more than just splashing.
He douses them with...
he basically drowns them in gasoline.
So he douses them in 5 gallons of gasoline, right?
Yeah.
Which, for one thing, gasoline feels bad when it gets on your skin. It feels very cold and it smells very bad, and you would recoil in horror when that happened to you. It doesn't feel like water. But also, the van had been on fire.
Are you trying to assert that that Stabler and Benson, that Chris Maloney and Mariska Hargitay did not get doused in actual gasoline.
Well, okay, I have some questionable. There's questionable verite. Is what I'm saying in a few scenes. But my bigger problem is not that. My bigger problem is that the van. There's a rag, presumably soaked in gasoline, stuck into the gas tank of the van that is burning when they turn the corner. And it has been burning long enough for him to light it on fire and go back into the van to hide. Is he? I guess maybe it's like a suicidal thing.
I don't know that. It might be. It could be.
I mean, which would make sense, I guess, given what happens later.
His demise. Yeah.
His alleged suicidal demise. But anyways,
it's definitely left up for interpretation.
On screen, that rag burns from 31:15 to 32:30. So almost a minute and a half on screen of it burning.
And there was smoke before this because they have seen smoke and have run out from the house to the alley.
Yes.
So presumably this rag has been on fire for conservatively 3 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know that it takes that long to light up a gas tank on a mid-80s Chevy conversion van. I don't think it takes that long. I think it would go up a little bit quicker than that.
Yeah, the safeties that are in place on a modern van would not be in place on this van.
But no, I mean, shit, we were seeing police cars get caught on fire back in June, right? Is that when that was happening? And it took a lot less time than this. But fucking Wentworth Miller saves the day by pulling the rag out of the conversion van. I would have been, if I had been doused in gasoline and that thing had been burning as long as I know it had been burning, I would be running. Running away. We'll deal with this shit later. So, okay, let's go to the Victor Tate Stabler scene, because I actually thought there was some emotion in that scene.
Oh,
I thought it was well
I
played.
got choked up. I think a lot of it's just we see this playing out sort of in general right now and how fucked this country is.
Yeah.
And this scene, this scene's the most powerful scene the episode has, probably.
Yeah.
Mahershala is great. But he's a villain, and you don't ultimately care that he's care about the outcome of his life.
It's true.
Victor Tate is the one you would have sympathy for, and holy shit, that scene that scene packs a punch.
Yeah, and he's been he's another victim basically of this guy, and I thought it was kind of weird how they filmed it, because so they show Victor Tate walking into this darkly lit kind of, room in a jail. And then they kind of pan over to Elliot, and it really looks, the way they lit Elliot had a very strong kind of Dick Tracy vibe, just without the colors, but he's got these I
think we've established that that's sort of how these scenes go, right?
Yeah.
SVU sort of, now we've got 6 of these scenes that we've always remarked what the fuck is up with this lighting in this scene? It's every scene that they have a fucking a meeting at in jail with somebody who's either awaiting trial at Rikers or up the river at Sing Sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of Victors too. Have you noticed how many Victors have been? We had Victor Bodine, to go back to the Michael K. Williams character. And of course,
and then we've got
everybody's favorite criminal, Victor Spicer from episode 1, season 1.
From the first episode, yeah. Oh, shit. And that's another one that he was lit so oddly in that episode.
So weird. And of course, Vance Dennis is, when I think of people in prison being lit strangely, I think of our Vance Dennis callback. But yeah, a really powerful scene. Really actually made you really think about kind of what I think the point the episode was trying to make, which was that the criminal justice system has problems and they don't have answers for how to fix them, but they are problems and they exist. And SVU is going to make an episode that kind of shows some of them.
Mm-hmm. And Finn sort of sums it up with the man had a fair trial. If he's not the rapist, then the entire system failed, not just you.
Yeah, and it's clear that it seems like the entire system failed.
Yeah.
Multiple people in this. And so we go back to where Mark Foster is now. It's clear that he was our guy and he is going to be taken away. This is where
He gleefully rubs it in Stabler's face that an innocent man's is serving his sentence out.
Yeah.
And then he says he needs to piss, and if he doesn't get to go piss, he's going to piss in the back of Kendall's cruiser.
Now, honestly, you would think one would be shocked that the New York Police Department allows perps to use a bathroom that doesn't have barred windows in it. You would think you'd be shocked by that. But honestly, when you think about it, they do need a good way to throw black men dozens of floors to their deaths, right? So it's not too surprising.
If that's what happened.
It's not too surprising in the end. So Foster is taken to the bathroom by Kendall.
Rena West comes in asking for Kendall, and Benson's like, yo, he doesn't work here. Get your shit together. Here's a fucking counselor. And then the glass breaks. Yeah. And they all run for the bathroom.
And what do they find? They find that Mahershala Ali
has done a header like 6 floors down onto the fucking pavement, and Kendall's saying he swan dived out the window. Like, how is he going to get up enough speed to do that? They set it up with Mahershala Ali like saying, basically like taunting Stabler.
Yeah.
Because he's put the wrong guy behind bars for a crime that fucking Foster committed. And so Stabler is like left to like stew in that, and then it would make sense if his plan was to kill himself.
He was in a burning van with a 5-gallon bucket of gasoline.
Yes.
So
and we know that fumes can
ignite,
catch on fire.
They can, yes. But also, when we see his dead body, we don't just see his dead body. This isn't just like I'm totally blanking on the name of the guy who did the header.
The innocent guy,
the innocent man
in the weird episode that was in Act 2 of that Warner sode that we did.
Oh yeah, that was I don't want to go crazy defending a child molester here, but ... That was Blast.
Yeah, so Blast.
But yeah, so we get a very long look at Mahershala Ali's lifeless, broken corpse.
It's pornographic.
We see a puddle of blood that we then zoom in on like 3 different times to the point where we're seeing like chunks of brain matter basically floating in the puddle of blood that's leaking out from his head. It's
like almost as graphically violent as like all of the staged murders in Hannibal.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, Hannibal's sort of my like, wait, how the fuck was this on network TV? Because it is so macabre and so fucking just like grotesque a lot of the times. I mean, it's shot beautifully. So like there's this weird like finding beauty in viscera.
Yeah, but they just like they show it and it's like, oh well, okay, that's a puddle of blood, and then they just keep focusing in on it, which they don't normally do that. You normally see a victim under a sheet or something, or you see maybe a glimpse of the dead body, but we don't just like hold frame like that for so long. So
yeah. Usually those sort of holding frames of a violent thing or someone on the slab.
Yeah, exactly. Or when Warner is weighing their organs.
Vic on the slab who is not getting to who's not getting a speaking line and is just they're getting paid like $200 a day to fucking lay there under a blanket and have their face done up to look dead.
Yeah, and have Warner discuss their vaginal tears and the weight of their spleens, things like that.
We really got to get like some of those extras on the episodes.
Before we wrap this up, there's one more really problematic thing is that, Paxton is standing there down on the pavement, right? When
shortly after Foster has killed himself,
as everybody else is standing around the scene. Of course, they haven't a death investigation takes a while, so whatever.
There's enough blood that it's been pouring out of him for a little while.
What she says is just bullshit about that. The
dead man's confession doesn't pass evidentiary muster.
Yeah, that it's hearsay and can't be used in overturning the conviction against Victor Tate. That's bullshit. It's not true. I did look this up, and hearsay evidence is admissible in that exact circumstance.
Did it pass muster in 2007? 2007 or whenever this was.
I believe so. I have to look at when exactly this became hearsay
This is
rules.
2009, 2010.
But this is a common exception to federal hearsay laws. That this is one that's so when the declarant is either dead or has a physical or mental illness that prevents testimony. So
okay,
I mean I don't know.
It would be exculpatory then. I mean,
yeah,
I suppose
there's a lot of
one of those instances where he's already pled out.
He did it. I mean, presumably it's a taped confession that he did in that room, right? They had multiple witnesses with the confession that are...
including an officer of the court.
Yes, exactly. And you have the victim in the original case who would probably testify on behalf of Victor Tate at this point because she was plainly aware of... Yeah, exactly. And you have an MO that matches another victim who had a better look at this. In my short look through overturned convictions in Innocence Project lists, I didn't find one that was an exact analog to this, but there are definitely ones that are similar, where basically testimony was used to help overturn them.
But testimony is one thing. Testimony actually happens in court.
Okay, you're right. But okay, so basically a confession from somebody else was used. And in this case, I think that would be a legally admissible confession that he made in the interview room if it was on tape. Anyways, we're not lawyers, so don't actually plan crimes based on our legal advice.
Yeah, if any, but if there are any criminal lawyers who would like to set us straight, please reach out. Man, holy shit, this episode's so long.
Yes.
There's no way this isn't going to be our longest episode.
It's long. I mean, we have one that we did that was 2 hours of audio, but this one's long so far. So can we just...
And there have not been huge breaks either.
No, that's the difference. There's no screaming child or dog breaks in this one for us to cut out 20 minutes. Can we just get to ranking this and get on with our lives?
Yeah, we have to get out of this one.
Anyways, we rank this stuff every week, as you well know. We come up with a composite score to kind of figure out a pantheon of where these episodes all match up with each other. We use 4 criteria. That is the overall quality of the episode, the quality of the guests therein, how problematic the episode was, and the depth and breadth of lives ruined during the course of the episode. And those latter two, obviously... the more problematic it is and the more lives are ruined and the more ruined those lives are, the better it is. So, should we start with the quality? Because I think this is really weirdly, the quality and the guests are where the show is the worst in many ways.
But also sort of the best.
Also sort of the best. It's strange.
It's this weird, there's both elements of this episode have a really... insane duality. The fucking Victor Tate shit and Mahershala Ali, that makes for a really good episode, but there's also all of the Nate Kendall stuff
is brutal.
There are parts of this episode that would be on the level of Juvenile or something, where oh no, it's dealing with some stuff that's really important and or at least interesting from a narrative standpoint. And then you've got other shit that it's just all the Nate Kendall stuff. And I do think that, it's an avenue for SVU to sort of dive into the realm of bad cops doing bad policing and brutalizing people and all of that shit. Because, the cops that are on the special victims unit are actually good cops. And this is
our heroes.
This is a way to paint... Yeah. This is a way to paint a broader picture of how policing's done in a way that's much more interesting and probably emblematic of what's really going on in the world.
It's making a really strong attempt at tackling these, social justice issues, but it's doing so in a very ham-fisted, problematic way too, right?
Which, frankly, that's kind of what you would expect. No?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true. That's what they do. And the other thing I would note is that a lot of times when we watch these particular ones we've done recently, we've been watching episodes that have...
after five after five after five.
Well, we've been watching episodes that are fun in the first, whatever. If we're saying it's a 5-act structure... It's fun in the first two acts, and then it just like hits a wall, and just all forward momentum stops. That doesn't happen here. The plot pacing is excellent throughout.
Front to back, front to back. This is like a well-paced, fucking fine-oiled machine.
I mean, it moves, but also it is like just there's some just brutal shit, especially like starting from frame one. It is brutal, like just brutal. So I don't know what 6.
Yeah, I think 6 to give it credit for like trying to do things that like have meaning.
And but also having like, just being like compelling throughout, not getting to that courtroom last third where it just falls apart and I stopped taking notes. It doesn't
there's no courtroom shit in this.
No, and right up to the final scene I'm engaged and like kind of pumped, like didn't necessarily expect he was going to jump out the bathroom window because I think like most rational people, like most rational people, I assume that the bathroom they let the perps use had bars over the window. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with a 6.
So guests, this is, I think, where we're going to have the most problems because I really think that we have, at the same time, we have one of the best performances we've seen so far in Munch My Benson. We also have a lot of screen time given to one of the most performance that just is killing me inside. I see it and immediately you know where it's going, and it's fully cringeworthy and just it's just hard to get through sometimes. So like we get it, guy. You're a tough guy. You don't play by the rules. We fucking got that in the first scene. You don't have to mushroom stamp us across the face with it every time you're on the screen.
He's basically Marion Cobretti.
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
Not fun. Cobra.
Oh, hell yeah. You mean Stallone as Cobra?
Yeah, only he doesn't have like Stallone's screen presence, you know?
No, he sure doesn't.
Egomania.
But okay, and I'm sure Wentworth Miller's a very nice person, and I'm sure he's been good in some other things. But I get the sense watching this performance, which is really my main exposure to him besides ads for Prison Break, that he thinks he has the gravitas of a mid-career Sly Stallone. Yeah. Like he has that in the way he squints, he thinks of himself as being Cobra, or being, whatever.
Or being James Dean channeling Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, Tango or Cash. Yeah, but he's closer to Tito Ortiz than he is to to fucking Rocky Balboa, that's for sure. So how do we approach this? We also had
Victor Tate's great.
Victor Tate's great, but like we have very problematic performances from all of the victims minus the court stenographer. They were they were pretty rough. Like
we've also got the pimp who was fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah. But then we also have Spencer. And what do we make of Spencer's performance, Josh? What do we make of that?
I feel bad for him.
I really do too. I really saw it, and I felt like when we watched Glasgowman's Wrath, I was making fun of that guy, and you were pointing out that like this was probably like one of his biggest breaks at this point. He had a lot of screen time in that, and he had like a lot to work with, and they let him down by giving him that material to work with and pushing him in that direction. And I think they really did.
I feel like that's the case here too. Yeah, and it's just one of those things that you're like, just cast. I mean, I guess there's surely an issue with casting someone who's actually autistic for it, but just cast someone who's autistic.
Or wildly unnecessary scene. Didn't need to go there.
Yeah, that's true.
The security cam footage.
That's the bigger issue. Yeah. That was a big misjudgment. Yeah. And it happened on the page.
I mean, it's a whole nother scene they have to shoot. Somebody had to track down a vintage Florida Gators jersey. We're kind of blurring the lines between acting performances and problematic here because I think they are kind of are twinned.
Yeah. Okay, so if we're sticking to the guests, Mahershala is so fucking good. I think Christine Lottie's really good, and like she jumps in and she's immediately like just fucking owning scenes. Victor Tate's really good.
Ali is so good. He's so fucking good.
Oh, yeah. I really think this is probably the best performance we've seen.
But Miller is so bad. It might be one of the worst
really
performances we've seen.
Yeah.
And certainly the most screen time given to a bad performance that we've seen. We haven't seen anything like that.
I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think of another bad... I know we've had other bad ones.
I know where we've seen it.
I can't remember.
We saw it only a few episodes ago, and that was Chasing Demons. And that, of course...
yeah, fucking Cassidy. God damn it.
Dean Winters. But that's a little bit different.
That was much worse, though. That was worse than this.
That was worse than this. Also, I feel
it
like...
was a lot harder to watch.
I feel like Sheila... is worse than this, who we've met in The Cold Mom Off Gets
Shields.
Hot. That's Brooke Shields' character. Sheila's bad.
We had her 2 episodes. She was brutal.
Now, one thing I would say with both Brooke Shields and Dean Winters is that neither one of them are appearing in high SVU like this. So maybe this one is jarring because of that. I don't think his performance is as bad as either one of those, but... Those season 19 episodes can be pretty brutal, and Brooke Shields is bad. And then also with Dean Winters, he's in season 1, which is weird, and then he's in these later seasons. So it's, I don't know, maybe I'm just classifying it differently in my mind, but he's definitely not as bad as them. So I'll bump it up from there. We had 2 for that one, for the Dean Winters one.
But with the Dean Winters episode, with Chasing Demons, there's nobody
else
counterbalancing with oh fuck, Mahershala Ali's so fucking good in this episode.
I mean, shit, we gave the Brooke Shields episode a 3 for guests. Maybe just because she's so recognizable that it has to be, but
maybe we didn't qualify her as a guest because she was recurring.
Maybe, I don't remember. Regardless, we have to bump it sort of because of how good Ali is. But I don't want to bump it too high, so I don't know. You want to throw out a number and we can...
Thinking 4?
Yeah, okay. That's... honestly,
which is really too bad because Ali's so fucking good in this
so
episode.
Good,
but
and so is Victor
so much more
Tate.
screen time is given to fucking Wentworth Miller.
I mean, shit, Rena West. She had more screen time, though, than Oscar-winning actor Mahershala Ali, I think. So,
and it was a lot of brutal screen time.
It was a lot worse. Yeah.
That's another one of those situations. It's not really that different from Chris Kling playing Spencer here, where you've got a young actor who ends up being pretty good and stuff, but holy shit, this is brutal. And they're it's just, she's supposed to play this so fucking terribly written character.
But, okay, so 4.
Yeah.
Let me get that.
Which is really insane that we have to give this a 4 because Mahershala Ali's...
He's fucking brilliant. He's fucking brilliant in it. Now, problematic.
Oh, man. Holy shit. There's so much. So much.
So there's a lot. And we can just, I think we've been talking about all the problematic things basically with every breath we've taken, from
autism, race.
Police brutality.
More police brutality.
The broken, bloodied corpse of a black actor when they've never really done this with white characters before.
Including the white pedophile who fucking missed when he tried to jump across a fucking alley from building to building.
And I made a point of how much they zoomed in on him. But nothing like
Not
this.
like this.
Not like this. Nothing like... Oh, the one time we did sort of see this was in Trade. What did we call Trade? Trade was Nothing Screams Cancun Spring Break like moose antlers.
Which I really think that might be the best episode we've done, but...
No, and when I heard the crash, I was really hoping that there was going to be like a mid-fall shot like we saw in that one. Sadly, that was not the case. But we also didn't see the gory pool of blood in either one of those 2 falls. Like both of them, there was like a crumpled body, but there was somebody put chunks in the blood.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross.
Yeah, they cut up a sponge or something.
But the first 5 seconds of the show has Wentworth Miller sticking a gun in a man's mouth and then talking about how he shit himself. This is how problematic it is.
From Jump Street. It is holy shit. Wow, this episode's fucking insane. I feel like I'm watching a weird, bad 80s cop movie.
Yes.
That's been jammed into this episode of SVU.
just up and down, front and back. It's a 10, right?
Yeah.
This
is as problematic as Hooked was.
I almost was going to say it's a 9 because we found, like, Hooked and Ridicule, we both found to be so hilarious in the problematic. And it's definitely not quite that, but there's just so much of it. And I was laughing.
I mean,
sometimes.
the whole episode. It's the whole episode.
When we got to the, Spencer, the magical autistic guy, I was laughing so much because it was just like, it was such a ridiculous stereotype.
I was like just beside myself with pity for him, like for that actor, because I was like, I've seen him in other stuff. But he's not autistic. I feel so bad for him.
Yeah,
knowing that he had to knowing that he had to like live through this.
I mean,
just like, fuck.
Also, everything that Mahershala Ali says is fucking problematic, and I don't think we think about it because, like, at least I'm focusing on like the problems I have with the choices the show made and the kind of like social issues that they're trying to bring up. But I mean, he is making these outrageously lurid sex puns to Olivia, while he's getting interrogated for a brutal crime. And that's pretty fucking problematic, man. So, okay. So you like 10? I was going to say either 9 or 10, but
it's way the fuck up there. I think it's a 10, especially because like these issues are so hot button right now too.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is.
And it's impossible not to watch this like in eyes from today and be like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that definitely informs us. I think that informs anything that you watch. And definitely.
But I mean, we're adding 10 years. Adding 10 years of hindsight to this episode, and it's been a rough 10 years.
It's had an additive effect with this one, and also I think 10 years where those kind of stereotype portrayals of hysterical women and autistic kids, like, I don't think you can do that way anymore. Like, I don't think you can get away with that, and it seems a lot more jarring today than it would have back then.
Yeah,
I'd like to think that the Spencer character would have felt jarring back then, but Jesus Christ, it does now. So what about the last category, depth and breadth of lives ruined? Because, he murdered one person.
Victor Tate's been in prison for 10 years and is going to have to play out the string on that sentence.
It sounds like it, even though
I know, obviously in reality, but within the construct of this episode, Victor Tate's life is forever fucked.
Already been forever fucked, but is going to continue to be fucked after he's already been given a glimmer of hope by the man whose testimony put him behind bars. Yeah. We have multiple rape victims whose lives have been ruined by by Mark Foster.
We've got a child, Mark Foster's child, who is clearly going to be put through CPS.
Yep, absolutely. Because there's no way she's staying at that house. Stabler's
still fucked up over. This is a thing that persists because in episode 15 of this season, of season 11, he's still feeling fucking terrible about Victor Tate.
I mean, that guy in the first scene, he's going to be traumatized by that shit. I don't care if he was on drugs or not, but to be like that brutalized by this shitty cop, like, that's going to stick with you.
Lynn, the victim who's murdered, like, her friend's going to be fucked up over it. All of the friends who were at that little
makeout party,
the
we
sex
didn't even
soiree.
Talk about the teen orgy, because like how like on the scale of problematic, that didn't even rank for us to mention it in our recap, that there was a teen orgy that we didn't even talk about.
Yeah, we don't even care about the teen orgy. It's insane. That's how fucking crazy that element of this episode is. That we've been taping over 2 hours and we didn't even talk about the teen orgy.
But how many accused rights have been violated by fucking Wentworth Miller and his squad of goons in narcotics? How many goons? Lots.
Well, he was even just on loan to narcotics.
That's
I don't
true.
even really know what he does.
He's from the 2-4. That's what they said.
Yeah, he's from the 2-4.
Yeah, but he's on loan to narcotics. And He seems like a pretty bad cop, and it doesn't seem like this is his first rodeo with violating victims.
He's the worst cop.
Yeah. He hates victims. So what exactly is he doing if he hates victims so much?
And, like, you know, they give his fucking backstory as a means by which to fucking sort of justify his fucking worldview.
Yeah.
Or for him to be able to justify his worldview. They're not justifying it, to be clear.
I think even, you know, legendary prosecutor Jack McCoy's going to be fucked up with this because he's going to question his decision to send Sonia Paxton down here to clean up SVU. You know, this was obviously a questionable call. I think if Cabot had been there, she would have been a little bit more interested in seeing justice served rather than seeing Cragen and his squad of do-gooders embarrassed, which is, I think, what Paxton's trying to do there. So what you want to throw out a number? 7?
Yeah.
It's
I think it's got to be like
it's a good number.
Maybe even an 8 because of Victor. Like, I think Victor Tate being an innocent and being in prison for 20 years.
It's pretty.
Because he's only about halfway through his sentence.
Yeah.
And to know that he shouldn't be there, and know that the cop who arrested him knows that he shouldn't be there, and that the fucking Vic that put him there knows that he didn't do it.
Yeah.
I think that's all. I think that's so fucking big. That has got to be at least an 8.
That's pretty big. I mean, that's pretty brutal. And he seemed like such a nice, gentle soul when Elliot talked to him. Like, this is a guy who, like, didn't become a criminal in jail. This is a guy who, like,
he mops the floors. He does that in episode 15.
Also, we have the cast and crew of SVU who have obviously never enjoyed a night out in the meatpacking district, which has numerous quality restaurants and bars, among other things that they could enjoy. and they just have no idea that that's over there. Like,
yeah, it's like, it's the meatpacking district.
There haven't been slaughterhouses there since the 20s. Like,
it's like, well, now it's a meatpacking district for different. Now it's the meatpacking district for a different reason.
Hoochang. Okay, so what did we say? 7, right? 8. You want 8? Okay, I'll give it 8. It works. So, and that gives us a 7. 7 works for me.
Yeah.
7 puts it just below Trade, which we just discussed. Also just below the episode I'm working on right now, Bound, from season 5, episode 23. That was the Anthony Rapp, Jane Krakowski one, which is exactly what I'm talking about in a show where it's like really good for half of it and then kind of falls apart in the end.
Yeah.
And so
this wasn't that, at least.
It wasn't that. It definitely was not that. But
there are big problems with this episode.
There are big problems.
But it's still mostly, man, I don't know. I mean, is it fun? I don't know. But there's fun stuff in this episode.
I was laughing multiple times in it. So, I mean, I was laughing obviously a lot for the wrong reasons, you know, like with Spencer.
And there's a lot of eye rolling going on with early performances.
Yeah.
The cold open has a lot to take in for really big choices or really irritating choices. In the case
the
of
second unit photo of what's her name, Katie Harris. I was rolling around on the floor with that one, like just imagining what the direction was. Okay, we need you to look so disturbed. Like we need your eyes
and that late
wide
night bit
as fuck. What?
The late night bit is so fucking great.
Yeah, really funny stuff. Yeah. Oh my god. And also, what about the privacy of all the people in Spencer's neighborhood?
In Spencer's neighborhood, yeah.
Every single one of them's had their privacy violated. And
he knows exactly when they were where they were.
He never forgets a face.
Total recall on that.
Dude, oh my god. So that gives us a 7. I really had fun watching this one. Again, a lot of for the wrong reasons.
I can't believe you took 6 pages of notes. That's insane.
And I feel like I didn't get to there's stuff I didn't get to.
Oh no.
And that's fine. We need
There's a lot to unpack with this episode.
We need to bury this one. We've been talking entirely too long. So it's time. Do you want to roll the next episode on episode.lol, our favorite new website?
All right. Firing up the randomizer, episode.lol. Thanks, Flet. It is kicking out Okay. God damn it. So, the randomizer kicked out Lost Reputation, which is season 14, episode 1.
I see where you're getting with this. It's different.
It's a follow-up from the cliffhanger from the last season 13 finale.
Okay.
So, the randomizer gave us this, but I think we should watch the season 13 finale.
We're going to do a two-parter.
And do a two-parter. Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to live in this world? I say we fuck it.
I think we jump in with arms wide open. We jump into this
and
one.
do 13, 24, whatever.
We take a header out the bathroom window, just like Mike Foster did in this episode.
We're going to get to see Kragen in a wife beater.
Oh.
The episode before this is called Rhodium Nights. The little capsule is a high society bachelor party ends in tragedy when an escort is found dead, and the SVU must proceed with caution as influential people try to bury the truth. This is a really big 2-part episode. This is fucking bonkers. Like,
I remember this one.
Oh yeah. in the pantheon, this is like one of those like huge episodes. So, this one has fucking everybody in it. This is the first season of first Pinot years.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Cassidy's a big part of this. He is undercover working with Bart Gansel, who's Peter Jacobson from House, but he's playing like a mobster pimp guy.
Nice.
This episode has Ron Rifkin in it. This has Reggie Cathy in it. There's a fucking lot going on in this episode. So we are going to watch episode 13 from season 23 called Rhodium Nights. And then that will lead right into season 14, episode 1 of Lost Reputation, which I don't want to spoil anything for how you guys watch this episode.
I'm going to speak in code. I feel like this steals a major plot point from X-Files, if I remember correctly.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Yeah.
It does. Yeah, no, it's definitely what you're thinking of.
Yeah. It's going to be a wild ride. Is it going to be a 2+ hour long wild ride like we had this week? You're just going to have to wait and find out, guys.
Yeah. So next week, just watch Rhodium Nights. We won't jam both parts in. We'll do Rhodium Nights for episode 31, and then the week after that we'll do Lost Reputation.
So let's just
good luck editing this one, Adam.
Let's bury this one in the grave.
Yes.
All right.
Rhodium Nights next week.
Fantastic. All right. Munch my Benson, guys. We'll see you then.
Yeah, munch my Benson too.
Jesus Christ.
I don't like victims. They cling.